Is PewDiePie a white supremacist? Yes, that's the question we'll be answering today. So basically, about a month ago, PewDiePie posted a video in which he praises the Nietzschean philosophy of the Ubermensch, meaning Superman. But not only was this ideology inherently a fallacy, since it led to Nietzsche himself becoming clinically insane, it also became the very ideology the Nazis adopted, since Nietzsche himself promoted the idea of humanity being ruled by a master race. He doesn't go into much detail about the philosophy, perhaps for good reason, considering its anti-Semitic association, but let's take a look anyway, shall we? The evolution of history following the cabal of Isaac Luria would culminate in the advent of the first man who dares to recognize that he is God. No, not talking about Ye.
Does he think he is? I just told you who I thought I was, a god!
In other words, Friedrich Nietzsche's Ubermensch, or what some would interpret as the Antichrist, a role the Nazis believed was fulfilled by Adolf Hitler. Nietzsche, who was foundational to the delusions of the Nazis, was frequently published in pan-German newspapers. In The Antichrist, which was published in 1888, Nietzsche declared, "Let us look each other in the face. We are Hyperboreans. We know well enough how remote our place is." And after quoting Pindar, he commented, "Beyond the north, beyond the ice, beyond death, our life, our happiness." In On the Genealogy of Morality, Nietzsche introduces one of his most controversial images, the blonde beast, the Aryan race, which he compares to a beast of prey, impelled by what he described as a good, irresistible instinct for mastery over others. It was through his formulation of an idea related to the blonde beast, the Ubermensch, that Nietzsche inspired the fascist ideal of the new man, with an excessive emphasis on male virility. As well, Nietzsche's mental illness would come to be perceived as a model for the sentimental notion of divine madness, an idea linked by Plato to mystic prophecy and the adoration of male beauty, ultimately based on the homoerotic fascination with the male as the sole object of affection. Fascism is a perverse form of machismo, where notions of compassion are denigrated as feminine and the purported virtues of dispassionate discipline and self-serving violence are celebrated as masculine. Aleister Crowley, leader of the German branch of the satanic OTO, was also inspired by Nietzsche. Crowley made Nietzsche a saint in the Gnostic Catholic Church and wrote in Magic Without Tears that Nietzsche may be regarded as one of our prophets. Crowley also wrote his own vindication of Nietzsche. The Book of the Law declared that its followers should adhere to the code of do what thou wilt and seek to align themselves with their true will through the practice of magic. Magic, in the context of Crowley's dilemma, is a term used to differentiate the occult from stage magic and is defined as the science and art of causing change to occur in conformity with will. Explaining his interpretation of magic, Crowley wrote, "It is theoretically possible to cause in any object any change of what that object is capable by nature." Crowley applies a Nietzschean interpretation to his dictum of do what thou wilt, where in the Aeon of Horus, the strong, who have realized their true will rule over the slaves whose weakness has brought about their self-enslavement. In it we find seeds of a fascist occult ideology. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Come forth, O children under the stars, and take your fill of love. These are the dead, these fellows, they feel not. The lords of the earth are our kinfolk. We have nothing with the outcast and unfit. Let them die in their misery. Compassion is the vice of kings. Stamp down the wretched and the weak. This is the law of the wrong. Lust, enjoy all things of sense and rapture. Pity not the fallen. Strike hard and low, and to hell with them. Be strong, then canst thou bear more joy. I am a god of war and of vengeance. Smite the peoples, and none shall stand before you. Conquer, that is enough. Worship me with fire and blood. Worship me with swords and with spears. Let blood flow to my name. Trample down the heathen. I will give you of their flesh to eat. Damn them who pity. Kill and torture. I am the warrior lord. I will bring you to victory and joy. Ye shall delight to slay. War is essential, declared Nietzsche. In Beyond Good and Evil, he explained, here one must think profoundly to the very basis and resist all sentimental weakness. Life itself is essentially appropriation, injury, conquest of the strength and weak, suppression, severity, obtrusion of peculiar forms, incorporation, and at the least, putting it mildest, exploitation. But why should one forever use precisely these words, on which for ages a disparaging purpose has been stamped? Nietzsche called for a conqueror and master race, which organized for war and with the force to organize unhesitatingly, lays its terrible claws upon a populace perhaps tremendously superior in numbers but still formless and wandering. In order to dispense one's resentment, one must become like a pillaging Viking or Homeric hero, an artist of expressive violence. Such is the Ubermensch. Sometime in a stronger age than his moldy, self-doubting present, he will come to us, the redeeming man of great love and contempt. This man of the future will redeem us not just from the ideal ideal held up till now, but also from the things which have to arise from it, from the great nausea, the will to nothingness, from nihilism, that stroke of midday, and of the great decision which makes the will free again, which gives earth its purpose and man his hope again. This antichrist and anti-nihilist, this conqueror of God and nothingness, he must come one day. Zeev Sternhell lists virility as one of the many qualities and cults that characterize the new civilization, in quotes, desired by fascism. Yet those cults, explains Barbara Spackman, in fascist virilities, rhetoric, ideology and social fantasy in Italy correspond to a single master term, virility, implying youth, duty, sacrifice, strength, obedience, sexuality, and war. During the same era, the belief was grounded in science that females were biologically inferior to men. It is for this reason that the active pursuit of exercise and modern sports was strongly recommended as a measure to increase masculinity and combat any signs of femininity. According to Nietzsche, another thing is war. I am naturally warlike. Attacking is one of my instincts. Being able to be an enemy, these require a strong nature. Perhaps in any case, every strong nature presupposes them. It needs resistances, so it seeks resistance. Aggressive pathos is just as integrally necessary to strength as the feeling of revenge and reaction is to weakness. Woman, for instance, is vengeful. That is a condition of her weakness, as is her sensitivity to other people's afflictions. Nietzsche's revolutionary new man of the future, the Ubermensch or Superman, must strip away all values of conventional weak morality, including equality, justice and humility. We must have an Umwertung aller Werte, the re-evaluation of all values. The man of the future must be a beast of prey, an artist of violence, creating new myths, new states based upon the essence of human nature, which Nietzsche identifies as Wille zur Macht, meaning the will to power, being a, in quotes, a will to war and domination. What Nietzsche prescribes then is a return to the pre-Christian past, before Jewish monotheism, even before Socrates and Plato, who demonstrated that there must be a self-subsisting good, which is connected to the evolution of the universe. Modern man must, in quote, eternally return to the earliest strata of human intellectual life, when man was just starting to construct his own god myths. While his critics argued that Nietzsche's disturbed ideas were a reflection of his mental illness, as explains Stephen E. Aschheim in The Nietzsche Legacy in Germany, 1890 to 1990, the pro-Nietzscheans, in quote, sought instead to endow Nietzsche's madness with a positively spiritual quality. The prophet had been driven crazy by the clarity of his vision and the incomprehension of a society not yet able to understand it. How do we know, wrote Isadora Duncan in 1917, that what seems to us insanity was not a vision of transcendental truth? Nietzsche finally suffered total mental collapse in 1889. As the story goes, he was taken away by two policemen following an altercation after he witnessed the flogging of a horse at the other end of the Piazza Carlo Alberto in Turin. In a last but desperate and misplaced expression of compassion, contradicting all his former pessimisms, Nietzsche ran to the horse, threw his arms up around its neck to protect it, and then collapsed to the ground. Within a week, Nietzsche's family brought him back to Basel, where he was hospitalized and diagnosed with syphilis. The Nietzsche scholar Joachim Köhler has attempted to explain Nietzsche's life story and philosophy by claiming that Nietzsche was a homosexual, and he argues that his affliction with syphilis, which is, in quotes, usually considered to be the product of his encounter with a prostitute in a brothel in Cologne or Leipzig, is equally likely, it is now held, to have been contracted in a male brothel in Genoa. As his caretaker, Nietzsche's sister Elisabeth Förster Nietzsche assumed the roles of curator and editor of her brother's works. She was married to Bernhard Förster, who became a leading figure in the anti-Semitic faction on the far right of German politics, and wrote on the Jewish question, characterizing Jews as constituting a, in quotes, parasite on the German body. In order to support his beliefs, Bernhard set up the Deutsche Volksverein, meaning German People's League, in 1881. With Max Liebermann von Sonnenberg, a German officer who became noted as an anti-Semitic politician and publisher. Von Sonnenberg was part of a wider campaign against German Jews that became a central feature of nationalist politics in Imperial Germany in the late 19th century. Following a conference of anti-Semites in Bochum in 1889, von Sonnenberg set up his own political party, the Deutsche Sozialpartie, which became the Deutsche Sozialreformpartei when it merged with the Otto Bockel's Deutsche Reformpartei in 1894. The party, whose main basis was anti-Semitism, was active in 1898 in support of campaigns to restrict the immigration of Russian Jews into Germany, and argued that such laws could form the basis of their ultimate aim of removing rights from all Jews in Germany. Wilhelm Giese emerged as a prominent member of the group and was especially noted for his criticism of Zionism, an idea that had some support among contemporary anti-Semites as a possible solution to the, in quotes, Jewish problem. In 1899, Giese ensured that the party adopted the Hamburg Resolutions, explicitly rejecting the idea of removing the Jews to a new homeland, and instead called for an international initiative to handle the Jews by means of complete separation and final destruction of the Jewish nation. The program helped to lay the foundations of the future final solution, a term it used. Bernhard Förster planned to create what he called the pure Aryan settlements in the New World, and had found a site in Paraguay which he thought would be suitable. The couple persuaded 14 German families to join them in the colony, to be called Nueva Germania, and the group left Germany for South America in 1887. The colony failed miserably. Faced with mounting debts, Förster committed suicide by poisoning himself in 1889. 4 years later, Elizabeth left the colony and returned to Germany. Friedrich Nietzsche's mental collapse occurred by that time, and upon Elizabeth's return in 1893, she found him to be a weak and disabled person from his mental illness. Yet his published writings were beginning to be read and discussed throughout Europe. Elizabeth took a leading role in promoting her brother, especially through the publication of a collection of his fragments under the name of The Will to Power. She reworked his unpublished writings to fit her own ideology, often in ways purportedly opposed to her brother's stated opinions. Through Elizabeth's editions, Nietzsche's name became associated with German militarism and National Socialism, while later 20th century scholars have strongly disputed this conception of his ideas. So, is PewDiePie a white supremacist for promoting Nietzsche's work? No, I don't think so. To be honest, I think he just didn't get a proper understanding of his philosophy before actually speaking about it, which is understandable considering how busy he is since he's a dad now. What's important though, is to understand where these ideas came from and how they shape ideologies, not just on an individual level, but also on a political one. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, please like and subscribe. Hit the notification button so you don't miss another video. Leave whatever comment you have down below. Make sure you check out the link in the description. And until next time, stay safe and stay knowing.